Hi, this is Grace Power. I'm with My Gold Sugar, and this is the 6th video on a series of 10 videos on how to get started with sugaring. Today I'm going to be talking about molding, and first I better explain what the term molding means. Molding is just a word used for applying the sugar onto the skin, and that's using the paste method or putting it on with your hand. So when you're molding the sugar onto the skin, the first thing to remember is to go against the hair growth. So you'll want to look at the area that you're going to be sugaring and just determine, okay, which way is all the hairs growing? Are they growing this way or that way? Which way are they growing? And whatever the majority hairs are growing a certain way, you're going to want to put the sugar on against the hair growth, which is, if you're familiar with waxing, this is going to be the opposite of waxing. So put the sugar on against the hair growth, and you're going to mold it on with your hand at least a perpendicular degree. You're not going to mold it on with a flat hand like this. You want to keep your hand up like this, or what I found might even work better, especially if you're not getting as great a results picking up those hairs and you're seeing some left behind after one swipe. You may even find curling your fingers and kind of going even like a 45-degree angle this way, pushing the sugar into those hairs is actually going to grab more hairs up and have more effect. So when you flick off, you'll get more hair out. So those are really important things, because if you're molding it on like this, you're going to lose control of your sugar. It's going to be too melty. I talked about in one of the videos about keeping the sugar on your fingertips. So if you're putting it on like this with a flat hand, you're already going to be losing control of your sugar. You want to keep the sugar on your fingertips, and one way to do that is to keep your hand perpendicular and or even curled or like slightly against going against the hair growth, and that's going to give you the best results on getting the most hair off on one flick, and also keeping control of your sugar so that when you flick it off, you have more control in your hand to go to the next area. Another thing about molding is that if you start with the sugar without being heated, you're going to want to mold it on and then just let it sit on for a little bit, let the body kind of warm it up, and then mold again, and then mold at least one more time, maybe even another time if you notice the sugar's still kind of thick. The sugar needs to be kind of soft and a little bit melted around the hairs for it to have the best effect. So that's why you do want it like melted into the hair a little bit, but obviously not too melted that it's going to be hard to flick off. When you're molding, it's very important that you don't put pressure. You're just kind of dangling your hand onto the skin. You're not pressing in. If you do press anything, it's to push the sugar this way, pushing it against the hair. That part you can put some pressure, but you're not actually putting pressure down into the skin or pressing into the skin. For one, it doesn't help you get more hair, so that defeats the purpose, but it also makes it a lot easier to flick off, because it doesn't get so melted and stuck to the skin. You'll find that it just flicks off so much easier when you don't put that pressure. So that's really important. And then another thing I wanted to talk about is if you're doing a hot spot of the body, like especially if you've seen my Brazilian demonstrations where you're getting into the very inner parts of the Brazilian, a lot of times you only have to mold one time. So the trick there is to just go slowly, let the body melt the sugar as you're putting it on. Don't put it on too fast, but then a lot of times just after that one mold and kind of going slow so it has time to melt a little bit into the hair, it's the perfect consistency to flick off. If you mold a second time or even a third time, it could start to get so melted into that hot area that it won't want to flick off for you. So Most of the time on like arms, legs, backs, you do want to mold 2 to 3 times. When I'm talking about molding, it's just going on, and you lift up your hand, go back over the sugar, mold again, lift up your hand, go back over the sugar, mold again. And that's just giving time for that sugar to kind of work into those hairs. The pH of the sugar also does have some sort of effect on the follicle, so it loosens the follicle and makes those hairs glide out a little easier rather than getting tugged out. So that's the importance of the molding. Take your time with it. The sugaring looks slower than waxing because it's not so speedy when you're doing it, but you do save a lot of time because you're not, especially when you're doing the paste method, you're able to reuse that piece over and over and over again. You don't have to keep going back and forth to a pot. You don't need to keep getting sticks and strips. And so as far as speed-wise, the sugaring it looks slower, and you do have to have kind of a slower pace with sugaring. But don't worry about as far as speed-wise. You'll catch up all that time with just the extra time that you're saving by not having to get more product all the time. So I think that should answer most of the questions of molding. I'm sure there's more I could talk about with it because it is an important part of sugaring, but that should help get you started. If you have more questions or you're having troubles with that, please make sure to message us or contact us. You can go to mygoldsugar.com and fill out the comment form, and we'll be sure to get back to you. So thanks for tuning in, and on the next video we will be talking about flicking and how to flick off the sugar in the best, easiest ways. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.